So guys, I've never played the Far Cry series, like, at all. And you're probably thinking, what on earth then are you trying to do some kind of review with Far Cry 5? I am glad you asked. So several weeks back, Ubisoft, or is it Ubisoft? That's a good question. But either way, they announced the specs for Far Cry 5, and they had, of course, you know, the minimum and the recommended system specs. I'm looking through the recommended, and as we start getting up to like the 4K resolution, they are recommending SLI and Crossfire configurations. And I'm like, what? I've never seen a game company do this. I'm not saying it hasn't happened, and I'm sure it may have, but at least for me, that was news to see a major AAA title recommending, not just saying they support it, recommending you should have SLI or Crossfire if you're going to play the game at these settings. That intrigued me. So I feel like that's something I really wanted to test out because I want to see, all right, if a game is recommending it, what kind of Crossfire, SLI, multi-GPU scaling can we expect to see? So let me go ahead first and talk a little bit about how I did my testing methods, and we'll go ahead and talk about how I'm pulling those numbers. And then I want to talk about what this could mean for the future, because personally, I think multi-GPU is the future of gaming. I really think we need to head in that direction. Let's see though if some testing results kind of help back up what I'm talking about. So Far Cry 5 has a benchmark tool in their game, and I went ahead and just used that because, hey, it's always simple to use a benchmark tool and it gives us really, really good consistency. So I wanted to do testing at 3 resolutions, of course 1080p, 1440p, and I wanted to do 4K, but I had to use virtual super resolution to test out at the higher reses, and that resolution caps out for me at about 3200 by 1800 pixels. So we're not quite at 4K, but we're pretty darn close, and we should get kind of the general feel of the result by that testing. So all I did is I ran the benchmark and I used Fraps to record the frame rates. I'm going to show us 2 results. I want to show us, of course, just the averages, and we're going to do the straight up percentages right off the bat. But then after that, I'm going to show us just the line graphs of the frame rate changes, so we can kind of see how the performance varies from different resolutions. And each test is going to be single card versus 2 cards. Now, I do not have NVIDIA SLI, so this is going to be CrossfireX only. But I have 2 R9 290Xs in Crossfire to test this all out. It's not going to be quite as great as maybe some Vega, but R9 290X is not bad. Of course, Ryzen 1800X and 16 gigs of RAM at 3200 megahertz should pretty well ensure that we're not really having any bottleneck issue. There may be some more frame rate we could get with some other hardware, but we're not going to really bottleneck in the strictest sense either. Let's talk about these results now. I tell you what, this is huge. So at 1080p, you know, we're not getting a huge amount of scaling. You know, we're still getting a decent amount, but it's definitely less than what you might want to have on an all-the-time basis. But when we start moving forward to 1440p, we start hitting up there in the 60 to 70% range of scaling. That higher resolution makes Crossfire SLI look like it's going to be way more beneficial. When we get to 4K res, or at least our almost 4K res that I was using, we're looking at nearly 90% scaling, almost doubling our performance. Wow, that is impressive. If that doesn't tell us that multi-GPU is the future, then I don't really know what does. Now, granted, I've seen those results before, so that's not necessarily a huge deal. What are some of the issues? Well, when we look at our line graphs, it's kind of interesting because at 1080p, we see some interesting contrasts where when we have Crossfire enabled, we're seeing frame dips, that when we have it disabled, we're seeing frame rate increases, but overall our performance was higher with Crossfire, which is important. When we get up to 1440 and close to 4K res, we start seeing gaming performance starting to mirror each other, whether it's SLI or Crossfire. That's important. That means that a dual card setup with Far Cry 5 is coming really close to giving us identical performance, at least on a visual basis, that, you know, just a straight up frame per second increase, but the same valleys, the same peaks. That's smooth gameplay. That means that I think when Far Cry 5 says they are optimized for multi-GPU, or they're recommending it, that they're supporting it well. If I was to give Far Cry 5 award, I might say Editor's Choice on hardware support. Of course, I don't really know what to tell you about the game. Haven't had time to play it. Don't have time to play any games. So this is exciting to me. Guys, what do I think this means? I think multi-GPU is going to be the future of gaming. Here's the thing. It doesn't matter how many billions of transistors we're throwing into these GPUs. Sooner or later, they get capped out. A game starts using those resources. So then we put more billions of transistors. Yes, they're more efficient. They're more power efficient. But when you start putting as many transistors as you can in one GPU, you start really killing your power efficiency. Compare that to, say, a 1060 or an RX 580, way more power efficient. If you can get two of those to work consistently well in gaming, you're going to have way better options, I think, in the future for being more power efficient per watt than you will when you're trying to slam that many resistors in one GPU. Guys, what do I really want to see? Now, yes, I know, you might think I'm dreaming, but I'm a hardware reviewer. I'm allowed to dream. I want to see the day that we have 2, maybe 3, maybe even 4 GPUs on the same card, and they are working together on a hardware level. No SLI, no Crossfire, no API level support like Vulkan or DirectX 12. No, hardware level, they have been built from the factory to work together so that when Windows sees that multi-GPU card, it only sees one graphics card, not 2. That's the future, guys. Look if CPUs had to start adding cores because the simple fact was they could only get so much speed out of one core, so they started adding multiple cores, why aren't GPUs doing the same thing? I know, GPUs are different, and I'm not an engineer, so I'm seriously asking the question, why not? Maybe somebody can figure it out. So there you go, guys. That's what our Far Cry 5 scaling looks like. I'm really happy, though. I give Ubisoft 2 thumbs up for, you know, supporting Crossfire and even recommending it. And I hope the gaming industry starts encouraging this more. I've seen them stepping back, and even hardware companies stepping back. Let's get back into it. Yeah, it may not be easy now, but in the future, I'm sure gaming is going to be there. Multi-GPU cards, multi-GPU setups. Let's make that performance so smooth that it's really, really worthwhile for everybody, not just enthusiasts like me. Guys, I hope you like this video. Like and subscribe if you want to. I'll catch you later.